Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, just back from Gen Con. I am exhausted, but I wanted to get you some videos out because Kronologic is a deduction game that was my #1 most anticipated game there. And I want to give you I got a copy and played it a bunch of times, and I want to show you A, how it works, and B, how much did I like it, and did it live up to my hype and my own expectations. So here we go. Kronologic comes with 3 different investigations. Each of these are going to go through 5 different scenarios, and they're easy all the way up to very hard. And these are single play things that you could replay, but it's not really intended to be. So 15 total. More about that later. Now, each of those investigations plays slightly differently, but they all use this map, and this is basically the opera house. And so, you have the foyer and the grand staircase and the gallery and the drama room and the music room and the dance room, right? That's the map. Now, within that, there are going to be different things that you're going to be looking at. You're going to be trying to find the time, the location, and which of these characters were alone with a detective at a specific time, an hour number, because that person did poison the detective. So you're trying to find out which of these 5 poisoned the detective, at what time, and what location. Now that's the same for the first investigation. All 5 of the first scenarios, that's what you're trying to do. Now each player is going to get a note sheet, a double-sided color note sheet with a thing that kind of gives you a player aid as to how the game's played, but also keeps your thing secret from it. At the beginning of each scenario, I've made this one up because I don't want to spoil anything for you. There will be a starting room for each of the people at time equals 1. This is the first hour, then there's second hour, third hour, so on and so forth. So for example, Jay, the journalist, has started right here in the dance hall, for example. So everyone, where everyone starts, and they're in there at hour 1. Now, as time goes on, each of these characters are going to move adjacent 1 spot. They can't stay still, and they can't move. So you know for a fact that in hour number 2, the journalist is either going to end up in this room, because that white is a door, or they're going to move in this room, because this white is a door. Now, to make it look even easier, when you look at this nice sheet, you can see door, 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 door. This one comes down this hallway. This is still the same room, but it goes adjacent to here. This one goes adjacent to here. So they have different adjacencies that's important in the game, but every character has to move once, and they can only move adjacent on each hour. Turns are very simple in this game. Each scenario, this is like scenario number 2, for example, has 1 card for each room. So each of these rooms, you will pick out one of these rooms, and you will question either a person asking about like, hey, how many times did this person go in this room? And possibly what hour were they there? Or you might be asking about a time, like saying, hey, at hour number 2 in the dance hall, how many people were there, and who was there? So it's either like time or character as to how many times throughout the whole night were they in a certain room, and possibly what hour. That's basically all you're doing. So let's just say, hey, we want to find out about the adventure and the music hall. Now, I'm actually not going to use these cards because I don't want to spoil anything. I'm just going to grab a random card just to show you how this works. So that player is going to take that play card and put it over the right room like this, and here's going to have a solution. And this system here is just really cool. This is private information. It just shows 1 person here in this icon. This means that the adventurer was in this room on hour number 1. We know that that's not really true. I'm just making this scenario up because I don't want to spoil anything. This is the green 3 people here, with the 3 pawns. This means that this is public information. So everyone's going to know this. So you're going to tell everybody, hey, the adventurer was in the dance hall 3 times throughout the entire night. But only you get to know this. And just to show you how crazy these cards are designed, is like it has all the solutions for all the different questions you might ask it, which is awesome. So you kind of put this over here without looking at the rest of the stuff. Now, if instead, with that same dance hall card, you want to know the time, let's say you picked hour number 2. Now here you know that, hey, the chauffeur, it says C there, private information. We know the chauffeur was there in hour 2. And you tell everybody else that there was 1 person in the dance hall at hour number 2. So everyone gets this information, but only you get this info. However, sometimes you'll ask a question and it will say 0. Like you tell everybody at hour 2 in the music hall, there was nobody there. And since there's nobody there, there's no extra private information to give you, so you get this little icon. This means you get to take another turn. This makes it so that as everyone has 1 turn around a round, everyone gets 1 piece of private information. So you don't get any more information from anyone else from this, so you get to go again to make sure everything's even. Now, how the deduction works is, again, I've made this up. Let's just say that we had questioned and we found out that the journalist was only ever in the dance hall once the entire time. So we come over here and say the journalist, the dance hall, once. That way, we know that he's only been there once, which means he's not going to be in there for the rest of the game. So you might do like a J with a cross out, put that in all of them, because this is showing you hour 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We know that he's not going to be there. I would do this again for actually all the rest of the hours, because he was only there once, and that's where he started. So he's never coming back to here. But we also know that in hour number 2, since they can only move once, he's going to be in either this room or this room. So we know that J could possibly be here or here, but we know he can't be here, can't be here, can't be here. Which also means even if he got here, we also know he can't be here the next round. So you can start to deduce things and you can see that. So that's the main part of the deduction, is tracking where people could or could not be, and also knowing how many times people are in certain rooms and how many people are in a room. Now, this was one of my sheets from one of the previous games. I'm not even going to tell you which scenario it was from. It is not this one, I'll tell you. This was just a card I put on here, and I didn't want you to see where to start from because I didn't want you to see reverse engineer this. But as you can see how my notes were. Like this one said, hey, there's 2 people in here. Well, I knew it was the Baroness and maybe there's still one other person. Which one is it? This one had 3 people in it at the time, okay? This person was in there twice, and I could start to rule people out and move people around. So that's kind of how you use the notepad. And again, anytime, if you think you know it, you write down who you think it is, and then in the book, each of the scenarios has a solution. If you're right, you win. If you're not, you're out. And don't tell the other people. And whoever gets it wins. Now again, each of these scenarios have 5 different cases in them. So when you get to the second box, you're trying to find the Phantom of the Opera, and you're trying to find the person that basically is alone every hour. So for all 6 hours, which character is alone? That's what you're gonna be finding for these 5 different scenarios that do that. This one is, you're trying to find the jewels. So the jewelry, the necklace was in at time 1, it was in the dance hall, and the first character who's found there alone steals it, and as they move, they might either keep it themselves if they're alone, or they might pass it to somebody. Somebody else might take it from them. And you're trying to figure out who has the jewels at time 6. So the game's, what you're trying to figure out is different between the 3 different main scenarios. And again, each of these scenarios have 5 cases. All right, now before I get to the moment you've been waiting for, I wanted to let you know that Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and they just launched their 4.5 Kickstarter, which will introduce the new Galactic Mycroft and Watson Game Toppers with interchangeable rail inlays, as well as new game mats, miniature gaming terrain packs, leg kit options, dining covers, accessories, and amazing package deals. Search for Game Toppers on Kickstarter or go to GameToppersLLC.com. Again, as I mentioned in the intro, this was my #1 most anticipated game of Gen Con because I love deduction games, and this design team is the same one that brought us Turing Machine, which was a deduction game that came out 2 years ago, which was also my #1 anticipated game. That game lived up. My review right after Gen Con was like, this game lived up to it. I was hoping this was going to do the same thing, so let's see it. This is another brilliant deduction facilitation system. The system itself that figures out the solutions and how things work and how you get information in Turing Machine was probably one of the most innovative things I had ever seen, and just like mind-blowing, like earth-shattering mind-blowing. This is also audacious and like, wow, how did they figure this out? Like, this system is as interesting and as like awe-inspiring as the game is. And so they did that well. The game has streamlined mechanisms. I always say in my deduction games, I don't want a lot of stuff around my deduction games. I don't want the worker placement of alchemists. I don't want the let's just play cards and you're gonna give me the same card again that I already know, like Awkward Guests. Did not like it because of that. This, I like my deduction pure. This is that. Streamlined, pure mechanisms, and I loved it. Like, hey, I'm gonna pick a room, and I'm either gonna want to know about the character in that room, a character in that room, or I'm gonna want to know that who was there at a specific time, or how many people were there at a time. That's it. Super streamlined. The way you get information is no luck, and I love it. It works so well. I like all good deduction games, in my opinion. You learn something on everyone's turn. This is no different. You get to learn something on everyone's turn, but you get to learn something private on your turn. And I love it. And even in instances where you would not, it's like, oh, you get to take another turn because everyone still learned one thing. You didn't get your extra thing, go again. I love how that keeps everything sort of balanced. We'll talk about balance in just a minute. This game feels similar. The deduction aspect, the spatial deduction aspect, feels similar to Awkward Guests, which is a very popular deduction game that I mentioned a little bit here just a minute ago. I did not like Awkward Guests. I liked the spatial deduction aspect of Awkward Guests. I hated the way that you got the information and the way that you like basically are like auctioning off and trading cards with other people and you're getting the same cards back. It's like, I already got that information. That's so stupid. Did not like that. If you liked Awkward Guests, the deduction aspect of that, you're going to love this game. If you did not like the way you facilitate information in Awkward Guests, you're probably going to even more love this game. This is a better info system. Now, so overall, I love the game. Did it live up to my hype and my own expectations? Yes, it did. But let me tell you about the things I did not like about the game, what other people might not like about the game. Number one, the game end. I've played this a handful of times with different groups. The game end, I'm not going to say the game is unbalanced because they played it way more times than I have, the developers. But the game feels like it could be unbalanced towards a first player. And the reason I say this is in many of my games, someone later in turn order had like a 50-50. And they needed that one more clue to get it. Well, guess what? The first player went, and now they have gotten one more piece of private information than everybody else. And the game says you can at any time say you know it and guess. Secretly guess, look, and if you win, you win. I don't like that. Because that person now has one more piece of private information, which could be huge. If the other player, and in every aspect of that, when the players later in turn order had it down to a 50-50, and they were also able to get the same amount of information of like turns, they were also able to do it. So I don't like the fact that I feel like it has a first player balance. Now, I imagine they're going to say, you know what, we've thought about this and we think it self-balances because whoever gets the first turn of the game has no information on what they want to find out. If you're the fourth player, you actually have heard 3 other things that everybody else has also heard, but now you have more information and the private information you get actually means more to you than it did as a first player. And you're always going to have more information for your to decide what your private information is than the first player is. And I could see that might be a valid argument, but in my experiences, it has not. So, and I don't even, the way Turing Machine worked was like at the end of a round, once everyone had the same amount of turns, simultaneously 1, 2, 3. If you put your thumb up, you guess. If not, you don't. You don't know if the other people are going to guess. And I liked that. I kind of wish that was that's the way this one was written. But again, if there is an advantage to actually going later because you actually have more information to say what you want to know, then that wouldn't work. So I'm just saying what they did is probably right, but it gives the appearance, in my experience over multiple plays, that on multiple situations, every person later in turn order that had a 50-50 chance also got it right after they got the same amount of information that the other person did that beat them to it. I'm going to have to play it some more. I played it a ton, but it is what it is. Second thing you might not like, the game has 15 basically games in it that once you know the solution, you probably won't want to play it again. However, a few things on that. Number one is there is 7 other scenarios that are print and play. You just print the cards out for the first set. So there's 7 more games. Second of all, most gamers don't even play 15 games anyways, including me, because I'm just, I do a lot of reviews. And there's going to be booster packs with the harder difficulties for each of these sets coming out as well. Plus, there's 2 other boxes coming that are completely different games. Plus, you could, I think if you, like right now, I kind of remember the solutions to these. 2 months from now, am I going to remember scenario 2 in the first box, who and where it was? Probably not. But if you're worried about that, if the people someone could randomly say, okay, we're going to play with something from the first chapter, one of the 5 scenarios. It's going to be randomly selected. Someone's going to randomly select it. We won't know which one we're playing. And even if you did know, you're going to get clues in a different order. And so the way you get to the solution is going to be different. So I don't think it's that big a deal because A, most people won't even play it all 15 times or want to play it again. B, if you do, there's more booster packs coming and there's already 7 more print plays. And worst comes to worst, play it 3 months later, do it random, and you probably won't know. Plus, even if you only play 15 times, the game's MSRP is $24.95 or $23.95, $25. You're getting $25 worth of game here, I believe. And if people keep buying them, they will make more and it won't matter. And there's 2 other boxes coming, Cusco 1450 and Babylon 2500. So you're going to have, at very minimum, 45 cases. For $75, it's still a great deal, I think. The other thing I really wish they would have had is there's no app-driven scenario-based creation here, like Turing Machine. You go to an app, you do a thing, you do the daily challenge. There must be a reason. There's probably just not as many iterations possible here as there were in Turing Machine. But if there is a way, guys, I'm sure you've thought about it. If there's a way to do app where you can do a daily challenge like that, like you could with Turing Machine, please do. The game works solo well as well. I played it solo too. And I played it on the airplane with some people that I just met that don't play a lot of games, and they liked it too. So I played it with lots of different groups. The game is fantastic. For all these reasons, I am giving it a Saxophone Serenade, my highest honor, which means I got to get rid of something else in my deduction section. I'm not happy about that. And that means it's getting Saxophone Serenade, so here we go.